Hey guys, tonight we are traveling way back to the sun-drenched banks of the Nile to explore a problem that is truly timeless, a toothache. Imagine a world without modern dentistry, where a simple cavity could be a life-threatening event. It's a gentle reminder that while we complain about the sound of the dentist's drill, you did probably trade a lot for one in ancient Thebes. So before you get comfortable, take a moment to like the video and subscribe, but only if you genuinely enjoy what I do here. I always love seeing how far these stories go. So let me know in the comments where you're listening from and what time it is for you. Now, dim the lights. Maybe turn on a fan for that soft background hum. And let's ease into tonight's journey together. The whir of the fan fades, replaced by a different set of sounds. The gentle lapping of water against a reed boat, the distant braying of a donkey, and the low hum of insects in the tall grasses along the riverbank. You are sitting in the shade of your small mud brick house, the brilliant Egyptian sun casting dark shadows on the dusty ground. The air is warm and dry, smelling of the river, of baking earth, and of the bread you hold in your hand. You are a potter, and your hands are caked with the same reddish-brown clay that makes up the landscape around you. It is the end of the workday, and you are hungry. You lift the bread to your mouth. It is not the soft, airy loaf you might imagine. It is a fat, dense disk of emmer wheat bread, the staple food of your entire civilization. It is the food that built the pyramids, the food that has fed your ancestors for 1,000 years. You take a bite and begin to chew, and this is where your trouble begins. The problem, the great historical truth of ancient Egyptian life, is that your daily bread is trying to destroy your teeth. The way the flour is made is brutally effective, but incredibly crude. The grain is ground by hand between two large, heavy stones, a device called a saddle quern, as the women of the household grind the wheat. Tiny, almost invisible particles of sand and grit from the grinding stones, and deserts and that blew into the harvest, get mixed into the flour. There is no way to sift it all out. So every single loaf of bread, every pastry, every meal thickened with flour, contains a fine, abrasive grit. It's not just chewing, it's an act of erosion. With every bite, you are slowly, imperceptibly, grinding your teeth away. You can feel it now, if you think about it. Run your tongue over your molars. They don't have the sharp peaks and valleys of a young person's teeth. They are flat, worn down into smooth, polished platos. This extreme dental wear is found in almost every Egyptian mummy ever studied. From the lowest status commoner to the most powerful pharaoh, it is the great equalizer. This leads to a wonderfully specific historical detail: the sheer, breaking labor of making this gritty flour. The saddle quern required a person, usually a woman, to kneel on the ground, holding a smaller, loaf-shaped stone and pushing it back and forth across a larger, slightly concave stone for hours on end. It was an incredibly inefficient and physically punishing process. So not only was the end product a dental nightmare, but the process of creating it was an orthopedic one. Historians and archaeologists still debate how aware the average Egyptian was of this specific problem. Did they connect their dental woes directly to the bread, their very staff of life? Or was a mouthful of aching, worn-stout teeth simply considered an unavoidable part of growing old, like graying hair or a stiff back? There are no texts that say, "Ouch, this bread is sandy." The connection seems so obvious to us now, with our modern understanding. But for you, sitting here by the Nile, the bread is simply bread. It is life. To question it would be to question the world itself. You continue to chew your meal, your jaw moving with a familiar, rhythmic motion, and then you feel it, a sharp, piercing jolt of pain that shoots from one of your back molars directly into your jawbone. It is a pain so sudden and so intense that it makes your eyes water. You stop chewing instantly, your whole body frozen. You sharply inhale through your teeth, a hiss of air that only makes the spot throb with a fresh wave of agony. Carefully, you probe the area with your tongue. The familiar, smooth landscape of your worn-down teeth now has a new feature: a sharp, jagged edge. You've broken a piece off. The constant grinding has finally weakened the tooth to the breaking point, and the piece has sheared away, exposing the sensitive inner layers to the air for the first time. The initial, blinding pain begins to subside, but it is replaced by something else. A low, persistent, throbbing a dull, insistent pulse of misery that has now taken up residence in your jaw. For now, it's just a whisper of a problem, a background hum of discomfort, but you have just taken the first step on a long, painful journey, a journey that will soon involve magic, medicine, and a level of discomfort you cannot yet begin to imagine. The next few days are a study in denial. The throbbing ache in your jaw is a constant, unwelcome companion, but you try your best to ignore it. You have work to do. The pots won't throw themselves, and the upcoming festival requires a large order of beer jars and offering plates. You chew your gritty bread carefully on the other side of your mouth. You avoid drinking water that is too cold, and you try to sleep in a position that doesn't put pressure on your cheek. You are a master of avoidance, but the pain is persistent. It is a low, background hum of misery that occasionally, without warning, flares into a sharp, insistent spike of agony. A stray bit of food, a sudden draught of air, anything can set it off. The problem is no longer just in your tooth. The gum around it is now swollen and tender to the touch, and there's a strange, unpleasant taste in your mouth that you can't seem to wash away. The small problem is becoming a larger one. At night, when the village is quiet and there are no distractions from the work of the day, the pain seems to grow louder. You lie on your reed mat, staring into the darkness of your small room, your entire consciousness focused on the throbbing pulse in your jaw. And in this darkness, your mind begins to turn to the cause of your suffering. In your world, the world of ancient Egypt, there is only one logical explanation for this kind of gnawing. Internal pain. It is a worm, a tooth worm. This is the dominant medical theory of the ancient world, a belief held not just in Egypt, but across Mesopotamia, India, and even into Europe for thousands of years. The idea was that a tiny, insidious worm had burrowed into your tooth. The pain you felt was the creature gnawing and wriggling in its hidden chamber. The hole in your tooth, that was the entrance to its lair. It's a concept that seems absurd to us now, but it made a certain kind of intuitive sense. The pain felt alive, like something was moving inside you. It was a perfect, if incorrect, explanation for the mysterious agony of a cavity or an abscess. You lie there, imagining this tiny, malevolent creature. Is it white or brown? Does it have teeth of its own? How did it get in there? Did you swallow it in a mouthful of river water? Was it a punishment from a displeased god? The toothworm theory was not just a diagnosis. It was a narrative, a story that gave a face to a faceless, internal enemy. Here we find a fascinatedly specific historical detail related to this belief. In Mesopotamia, they had elaborate magical texts that were essentially exorcisms for the toothworm. These texts would tell the mythological story of the worm's creation, how it begged the gods to let it live among human teeth and feed on their blood and roots. The recitation of the story, followed by a direct command for the worm to leave, was believed to have a powerful magical effect. The priest or magician would be acting out a divine drama to frighten the creature out of its hiding place. While the belief in the toothworm was widespread, historians and paleopathologists still debate how literally it was taken by the actual medical practitioners of the time. The physicians known as the SW and W pronounced Su-No, the surviving medical papyrus, like the famous Ebers Papyrus, are a strange mix of what we would consider practical medicine and what we would call pure magic. A prescription for a toothache might include a list of herbs to be ground into a paste, followed immediately by a magical incantation to be recited over the patient. Did the physicians see these as two separate but equally valid approaches? Or did they believe the magic was an essential part of activating the medicinal properties of the herbs? The line between science and sorcery in the ancient world is incredibly blurry, and scholars argue constantly about where one ends and the other begins. For you, however, there is no debate. The worm is real, and if your problem is caused by a magical creature, your first line of defense must also be magical. You decide that tomorrow you will not go to the physician. You will go to the village wise woman, the local expert in amulets, charms, and, most importantly, the powerful, secret words that can drive out of you. The pain flares again, a sharp reminder of the creature feasting within your jaw. You clutch your teeth, groaning softly into the darkness. You are no longer just a potter with a broken tooth. You are a victim, a host for a tiny, gnawing monster. And your first battle against it will be fought not with tools or medicine, but with whispered words and sacred spells. A war of magic against a creature of myth. The first light of dawn brings no relief, only a renewed, grim determination. The throbbing in your jaw has settled into a deep, unshakable ache. You forgo your morning bread, the very thought of chewing in agony. Today, you will fight back. You leave your workshop and walk through the dusty lanes of your village, heading towards a small, unassuming house on the edge of the settlement. This is the home of the village wise woman, an old woman named Teti, who inherited her knowledge from her mother, who inherited it from hers, in a chain stretching back into the mists of time. She is not a SWNW, an official physician. She is something older, more local, and, for many everyday problems, more trusted. She is a practitioner of folk magic, a keeper of the ancient words. You find her sitting outside her home, grinding herbs with a small stone pestle. She looks up as you approach, her dark, wrinkled eyes missing nothing. You do not need to explain much. The slight swelling of your cheek, the hand you hold protectively against your jaw, the pain in your eyes, it is a story she has seen 1,000 times. She nods slowly and beckons you inside. Her home is dark and cool, the air thick with the scent of dried herbs, incense, and something else, something earthy and mysterious. She gestures for you to sit on a low stool. Your magical treatment is about to begin. First, she must identify the enemy. She asks you to open your mouth, and she peers inside, her face close to yours. She clucks her tongue. "A worm," she says with absolute certainty. "A strong one. He has built a fine house in your tooth." The diagnosis confirms your deepest fears. The treatment will be a two-pronged attack. The first part is practical. She takes a pinch of the herb she was grinding, perhaps chamomile for its soothing properties, or willow bark, a natural source of soil lysine, the active ingredient in aspirin, and mixes it with a sticky dollop of honey. Honey was a cornerstone of Egyptian medicine, valued for its sweetness, which made foul minus tasting ingredients palatable, and for its genuine antibacterial properties, though they wouldn't have understood the science behind it. She rolls this mixture into a small pellet and instructs you to place it against the afflicted tooth. The sweet, herbal paste is cool and brings a momentary, fleeting sense of relief. But the real work is about to begin. This medicinal pellet is merely to appease the body. The true battle is for the soul, and it must be fought with words. This is a core principle of ancient Egyptian medicine. The magical incantation, the hikah, was just as important, if not more so, than the physical remedy. The words gave the medicine its power. Teti closes her eyes and begins to chant. Her voice, at first a low murmur, grows in strength and rhythm. She is not just speaking, she is casting a spell. The words are ancient, their exact meaning perhaps lost even to her, but their power is in their sound, their cadence. She is reciting an incantation against the worm. A fascinating, specific detail from the medical papy reveals what one of these toothed spells might have sounded like. One surviving text from the Ebers Papyrus commands so: "Tooth, thou shalt not make a painful throbbing in this my flesh, in these my bones, for I have placed the great minus in minus magic upon thee." The magician essentially threatens the tooth itself, commanding it to behave, and invokes the authority of a higher magical power. It's a verbal assault on the ailment. Teti's chant is similar. She speaks to the worm directly. She commands it to leave your jaw. She invokes the names of powerful gods associated with healing and magic, like Sekhmet, the fierce lioness goddess of plagues and healing, or Thoth, the ibis-headed god of wisdom and writing. She is acting as your champion, your magical lawyer, arguing your case before the divine tribunal and threatening the squatter in your tooth with the power of the gods themselves. The academic debate here is intense. When modern scholars look at these texts, they grapple with the Egyptian worldview. Were these spells a form of placebo, their power purely psychological? Did the patient's belief in the magic, combined with the mild analgesic effect of the herbs, create a genuine sense of relief? Or is there something more complex going on? Some anthropologists and historians argue that we cannot simply dismiss these practices as superstition. For the Egyptians, the magical and the physical were not separate realms. A spell was a tangible force, a wave of power that could physically interact with the world. To them, Teti's chant was as real a weapon as a bronze spear. You sit there on the stool, the herbal pellet slowly dissolving in your mouth, the old woman's rhythmic, powerful voice washing over you. You feel a sense of calm descending. The pain in your jaw has not vanished, but it seems to have receded. It feels less aggressive, as if the worm has been momentarily stunned into submission by the force of the incantation. Teti finishes her chant. She opens her eyes and gives you a stern nod. She gives you another small pellet of the honey-herb mixture to use later. The treatment is complete. You thank her, dealing a small offering of a few clay pots you made, and step back out into the bright sunlight. You have fought magic with magic. You have faced the mythical worm, and for now, at least, it feels as if you might have won. The magical calm that settled over you in the wise woman's hut lasts for almost a full day. The throbbing in your jaw is a dull, distant echo, and you allow yourself to believe that Tet, the spell and her herbal remedy have worked. You are triumphant. You have faced the worm and banished it. But the worm, it seems, is a stubborn tenant. As evening falls on the second day, it returns, and it has brought friends. The pain is no longer a simple ache. It is a siege. A hot, searing, and relentless agony that now encompasses the entire side of your face. The slight swelling of your cheek has become a firm, angry lump that is hot to the touch. You can no longer chew at all, and even swallowing water is a painful ordeal. Sleep is impossible. You spend the night pacing the dusty floor of your small house, clutching your head, groaning in a way that frightens your sleeping family. The magical solution has failed. The worm has regrouped and is now launching an all-minus outer assault. That morning, you are wrecked. Your face is pale. You are weak from lack of food and sleep, and you are radiating a feverish heat. This is no longer a simple detach. This is a sickness that is consuming your entire body. The folk remedies and whispered spells of the village are not enough. You need a different kind of power, a different kind of expert. You need a SWNW, a physician. This represents a key step in ancient Egyptian healthcare. While local healers and magicians handled many day minus to minus day ailments, the SWNW were a class of highly trained, literate professionals who served the elite and dealt with more serious, internal illnesses. They were masters of the medical papyrus, the great textbooks of their art. Your decision to seek one out is an admission that your problem has escalated beyond the scope of village magic. Your wife insists. She can see that you are getting sicker. She makes the arrangements. There is a well-regarded physician who lives in a larger town a few hours' journey down the river. He is known to be skilled in treating mild ailments. Your journey will not be easy, but it is necessary. Your wife packs a small bag with a water skin, a few pieces of dried fish which you have no hope of eating, and, most importantly, the items you will use for payment. There is no official currency, so you will pay the physician with the fruits of your labor, a set of your finest, most beautifully crafted pottery bowls and jars. Your neighbor agrees to help, and together, you and he carry you down to the riverbank. Every step sends a jolt of fresh agony through your jaw. You are laid gently in the bottom of a small reed boat, a skiff made from bundles of papyrus stalks lashed tightly together. It's a simple, common vessel, the workhorse of the Nile. The journey begins. Your neighbor pushes off from the bank and begins to pull the boat along the shallow, wan waters near the edge of the great river. You lie on your bed, staring up at the brilliant, indifferent blue of the Egyptian sky. The sun is hot on your face, but you are shivering with fever. This is a good moment to appreciate the central role of the Nile in all aspects of Egyptian life. including medicine. The river was the highway, the main artery of communication and transport. A physician in a town could serve a wide area, with patients traveling by boat to seek his care, just as you are doing now. This riverine network allowed for the dissemination of medical knowledge and the concentration of specialists in larger population centers. A fascinatedly niche detail about this kind of travel is the sheer amount of life you would see on the river. You drift past fishermen casting their nets, larger cargo boats laden with grain or stone, and perhaps even the magnificent, painted barge of a wealthy noble, being rowed by a team of uniformed slaves. The river was a bustling, crowded place, a stark contrast to the lonely, internal world of your pain. The historical debate here among scholars of Egyptian society is about the accessibility of this kind of professional medical care. You are a skilled craftsman, so you have valuable goods to trade for the physician's service. But what about a poor, unskilled farm laborer? Could he have afforded this journey and the subsequent payment? Or was the care of the SWNW exclusively for the middle and upper classes? The medical texts themselves, written by and for an educated elite, are largely silent on the health care of the poor. Did they rely solely on folk remedies and magic, or was there some form of basic, charitable care available? It's a gap in our knowledge that leaves us questioning how a vast portion of the population dealt with the kind of agony you are now enduring. You lie in the boat, drifting between waves of feverish sleep and moments of sharp, painful clarity, the rhythmic splash of the pole, the gentle rocking of the boat, the heat of the sun. It all merges into a miserable, disorienting haze. You are a piece of fragile cargo, being shipped down the river towards a final, desperate hope. The village magic has failed you. The worm is winning. No, everything depends on the skill, the knowledge, and the strange, mysterious tools of the man you are traveling to see the physician. The gentle, rhythmic rocking of the boat comes to a stop with a soft bump against a muddy bank. The journey is over. Your neighbor helps you out of the boat, and you find yourself in a town that is larger, noisier, and more crowded than your small village. The air is thick with the smells of 100 cooking fires, of livestock, and of the bustling marketplace nearby. You are leaning heavily on your friend, that you have arrived. He asks apercibly for directions to the house of IOY, the SWNW. You are led through a maze of narrow, dusty streets to a house that is noticeably larger and better constructed than your own. It has a second story and a painted wooden door. This is the home of a respected and successful professional. Your neighbor knocks. After a moment, the door is opened by an assistant, a young apprentice, who listens to your friend's explanation and then ushers you inside, out of the glare of the sun. You enter the physician's domain. You are not in a modern, sterile clinic. You are in the main reception room of a private home. The room is cool and dim. Woven reed mats cover the floor, and there are a few low wooden stools for waiting patients. On one wall, there is a small shrine to a household god. The air smells of medicinal herbs, but also of the ordinary domestic life of the family that lives here, the faint scent of baking and of the perfumed oil the wealthy use. There are a few other people waiting. A woman with a persistent cough, an old man whose eyes are clouded with cataracts. They look at you, at your swollen face and pained expression, with a mixture of pity and a certain grim satisfaction that their own ailments are not as severe as yours. After a short wait, the apprentice calls your name. You are led through another doorway into a smaller, more private room. This is the consultation room, the SWNW's inner sanctum, and this is where you get a glimpse of the tools of his trade. There are no gleaming stainless steel instruments. Instead, arranged neatly on a low wooden table, is an array of objects that look both familiar and strangely alien. There are a series of bronze and copper tools, fine minus pointed probes, small spoons, forceps, and a collection of sharp minus-looking knives of various sizes. There are stone palettes and grinders for preparing medicines, and there are dozens of pottery jars, each carefully labeled in hieratic script, containing the physician's pharmacopoeia, a vast collection of dried herbs, minerals, and animal products. A key piece of historical knowledge here is that Egyptian physicians were often specialists. The Greek historian Herodotus, writing much later in the 5th century BC, noted this with minus admiration. Medicine is practiced among them on a plan of separation. Each physician treats a single disorder, and no more. Some of the eye, some of the teeth, some of what pertains to the belly, while your physician, Cleoway, might be a general practitioner. He has a known reputation for being an I or Y-CB one who deals with the teeth. You have come to the right place. The most fascinating and perhaps terrifying object on the table is a tool that looks like it belongs in a carpenter's workshop. It is a bowed reel. It consists of a small, thumb-shaped piece of wood with a taut string, and a separate spindle with a sharp, pointed tip made of flint or metal. By looping the bowstring around the spindle and moving the bow back and forth, the user can spin the drill at a very high speed. It's a tool used for woodworking, for fire starting, and, as you are about to find out, for dentistry. The academic debate rages around this specific tool. We have found bowed reels in Egyptian tombs. We have found mummies with sophisticated holes drilled into their jawbones. But did Egyptian doctors actually use the bowed reel directly on a living patient's teeth? The enamel of a tooth is incredibly hard, and drilling through it with this kind of tool without a modern, diamond-tipped burr would have been extraordinarily difficult, painful, and time-consuming. Some scholars argue it's more likely the drill was used on the softer bone of the jaw, as we will see, or that its use on teeth was reserved for post-mortem cosmetic procedures on mummies. Others maintain that for a skilled physician, with a very determined patient, drilling a tooth was possible. The evidence is inconclusive, a testament to the mysteries that still surround ancient medical practices. A figure enters the room, and you know instantly that this is IOI. There's WNW. He is not a wizened old man like the village healer. He is middle-aged, with intelligent, observant eyes and the clean, well-kept hands of a man who does not perform manual labor. He carries an air of calm, professional authority. He dismisses his apprentice with a nod and turns his full attention to you. He gestures for you to sit on a stool in the center of the room. His voice is calm and low as he begins to ask you questions. When did the pain start? What does it feel like? Have you had a fever? He listens to your mumbled, painful replies, his expression unreadable. You have passed from the world of magic and spells into the world of professional diagnosis. The physician is here, and the examination is about to begin. The physician, Cleoway, listens patiently to your pained, mumbled account of the worm's relentless assault. He nods slowly, his face giving away nothing of his thoughts. The time for talking is over. Now, he must see for himself. He instructs you to open your mouth, and you comply, wincing as the movement pulls at your swollen jaw. His examination is nothing like the quick, knowing glance of the village-wise woman. It is slow, methodical, and uncomfortably intimate. He does not have the small, angled mirrors of a modern dentist to see into the dark recesses of your mouth. He must get very close. You can smell the faint, clean scent of the natron he uses to wash his hands, mixed with the sweet aroma of the perfumed oil in his hair. He leans in, his face just inches from yours, tilting your head to catch the light coming from the doorway. His primary tool is his finger. He gently, but firmly, probes the area around the aching tooth. He presses on the swollen gum, and you flinch, letting out a sharp gasp of pain. He murmurs an apology, but continues his exploration, noting the texture and firmness of the swelling. He is gathering information through his sense of touch, diagnosing the problem with his fingertips. Next, he picks out one of the long, slender bronze probes from his instrument table. He uses it to gently tap on each of your teeth, listening to the sound. Tap, tap, tap. The healthy teeth produce a dull, solid sound, but when he taps the broken, offending molar, the sound is different, and a sickening jolt of pain shoots through your jaw. You cry out, and he pulls back instantly. He has found the culprit. This process of percussion, tapping on a tooth to diagnose inflammation in the underlying ligament, is a fundamental technique that is still used in dentistry today. It's a powerful reminder that despite the vast gulf of time and technology, Some basic principles of medical diagnosis are truly ancient. Now he uses the probe to explore the tooth itself. He carefully traces the sharp, broken edge where the piece had sheared off. He gently pushes the tip of the probe into the dark, carious lesion at the center of the tooth. He is searching for something specific, according to the medical texts of his time, like the Ebers Papyrus. A key part of the examination was to determine if the tooth was eating the flesh of the gum, a sign of advanced decay and infection. A strange and specific detail that emerges from these papyri is the Egyptian physicians' surprisingly nuanced understanding of dental anatomy. Even if their theories about causation were wrong, they had specific names for the teeth. The gums, the flesh that grows on the teeth, and even the jawbone. One text describes a condition of gnawing of the blood of the tooth, which some scholars interpret as a surprisingly accurate, if poetic, description of pulpit is the painful inflammation of the blood vessels and nerves deep inside the tooth. They might not have known what a nerve was, but they certainly knew where it hurt. The historical debate here centers on the extent of the Egyptian dentists' surgical skills. We know from mummies that they suffered from extreme dental wear, cavities, and abscesses. We have texts that describe treatments, but how invasive could they be? Did they perform extractions? The evidence is surprisingly scant. While it seems logical that pulling a hopelessly painful tooth would be a common procedure, very few mummies show signs of extractions. This has led to a major debate. Does the lack of evidence mean that extractions were rare, perhaps because they were too dangerous in an era before antibiotics? Or does it mean that the Egyptians were simply so good at it that the jaw healed perfectly, leaving no trace for archaeologists to find? It's a frustrating but fascinating puzzle. Some scholars argue that pulling a tooth was a last resort, something only a barber-surgeon type of practitioner would do, not a respected SWNW. IOY finishes his examination. He sets the probe down and straightens up. He looks at you, and for the first time, his professional mask slips, replaced by an expression of gentle, pitying gravity. He has reached his conclusion. He shakes his head slowly. It is not a worm, he says, his voice quiet but firm. The statement hangs in the air. Not a worm, but if it isn't the mythical creature you've been fighting, the monster you've been picturing in your head, then what is it? What could be causing this all-consuming agony? The physician leans in again, his voice dropping lower. He gives the disease its name. Lidishimima, he tells you, a consuming sickness, a flesh-eating disease of the mouth. He explains that the break in your tooth has allowed corruption to enter, and this corruption has taken root deep in your jaw, creating a pocket of poison and decay. It is, in modern terms, a severe pyroperic abscess. The worm was a myth. The reality, a pocket of aggressive, flesh-eating bacteria, is far more dangerous. The examination is over. The terrifyingly real verdict has been delivered. And now, you must face the treatment. The physician's verdict hangs in the air, heavy and terrifying. Shimimet, a flesh-eating disease. The mythical toothworm, as frightening as it was, seems almost comforting in comparison. At least a worm is a single entity that can be exorcised. This sounds like a rot, a corruption that is spreading through you. The air, cold and sharp, cuts through the hot haze of your fever. You look at IOY, your eyes pleading. What can be done? He does not rush to his sharpest knives or his fearsome-looking drill. The Egyptian medical approach was often conservative and started with the least invasive treatments first. His initial plan is not to attack the abscess directly, but to treat it with medicine. He walks over to his collection of labeled pottery jars and begins to select his ingredients. You watch, fascinated and terrified, as he assembles his prescription. This is a cornerstone of Egyptian medical practice pharmacology. The medical papyri contain hundreds of prescriptions, revealing a vast knowledge of herbal and mineral remedies. They used everything from acacia and aloe to myrrh and frankincense. Their pharmacy was a complex and surprisingly sophisticated blend of effective botanical substances and what we would consider pure magical thinking. IOY begins to compound your medicine. First, he takes a measure of honey, as you saw with the village healer. Honey was a universal base for Egyptian remedies. Its thick, sticky consistency was perfect for creating a paste, and its natural antibacterial properties, while not understood, were certainly effective. Next, he adds a pinch of ochre, a natural iron oxide earth pigment. This gives the mixture a reddish color, perhaps based on the principle of sympathetic magic, using a red substance to treat an ailment involving blood or inflammation. Then come the more potent ingredients. He scrapes a fine powder from a lump of frankincense, a fragrant tree resin known for its powerful anti-inflammatory properties. He adds a measure of ground barley, not just as a thickener, but because it was believed to have drawing properties, capable of pulling the poison out of the swelling. Finally, he adds the most important ingredient, a set of finely crushed herbs. What are they? Even he might not know all their names. The knowledge passed down from master to apprentice, a secret of his trade. He grinds the ingredients together on a stone pallet, his movements practiced and efficient, creating a thick, fragrant, reddish-brown paste. This is your medicine. This is the first weapon to be deployed against the shimi mat. Here we find a wonderfully bizarre detail from the fringes of Egyptian dentistry. Some prescriptions for dental problems included ingredients like a crushed mouse mixed with other components. While this sounds disgusting, there may have been a strange logic to it. The god Horus was sometimes appealed to in cases of toothache, and one of his minor forms or associated creatures was the shrew minus mouse. It's possible the use of a mouse was a form of sympathetic magic, a direct offering to the divine power you were seeking help from. Thankfully for you, Iris' prescription seems to be mouse minus free. The physician, Ayawai, scoops a dollop of the paste onto a small, clean square of linen. He instructs you to open your mouth one more time. Gently, he packs the medicinal poultice directly onto the swollen, painful gum beside your broken tooth. The paste is cool and has a strange, spicy sweet taste. It is surprisingly soothing. He then gives you the rest of the mixture in a small pottery jar, along with instructions. You are to apply it 4 times a day. You are to hold it in your mouth for as long as you can bear, and then spit it out. You are not to swallow it. The historical debate here among medical historians is about the efficacy of these treatments. Were they genuinely effective, or just elaborate discourse? The answer is likely somewhere in between. A formula like the one you've just received had real therapeutic potential. The honey was antibacterial, the frankincense was anti-inflammatory, and the poultice itself would have provided some palliative cooling and drawing effects. It might have been enough to help a minor infection resolve itself. However, for a severe, deep-seated abscess like yours, it was unlikely to be a cure. It was more like a beautifully crafted, religiously sanctioned bandage on a problem that required surgery. But for now, it is a prescribed course of action. It is the hope you have paid for. You sit there for a few minutes, the strange, medicinal taste filling your senses. The immediate, sharp edges of the pain seem to be softening under the cool, gentle pressure of the poultice. It feels like it's working. Ayawai tells you to return in 2 days. If the swelling has not gone down, he says, a more forceful approach will be necessary. The word forceful hangs in the air, full of unspoken menace. You pay the physician with your finest pottery, which his apprentice accepts with a respectful nod. You are then lead out of the cool, dark house and back into the blinding heat of the afternoon sun. You hold your small jar of medicine like a precious jewel. It is a tangible symbol of hope, a product of ancient knowledge and professional skill. You have your prescription. Your treatment has begun. And now, all you can do is wait and pray that the honey, the herbs, and the magic are strong enough to conquer the sickness that is eating you from within. You spend the next 2 days in a state of hopeful, medicated misery. You return to your village, your precious jar of poultice clutched in your hand. You follow the physician's instructions with the devotion of a priest. 4 times a day, you dutifully pack the cool, fragrant paste against your swollen gum. For a few minutes each time, there is a blessed, soothing relief. The angry heat in your cheeks seems to cool, and the relentless, throbbing pain softens to a dull, manageably. You begin to have hope. Perhaps the SWN W's powerful medicine is working. Perhaps the shimi mat is being driven back, but the relief is always temporary. As soon as the effects of the poultice wear off, the pain returns with a vengeance. The swelling does not decrease. If anything, it feels harder and more significant. The fever that has been simmering in your body refuses to break. On the morning of the third day, you wake to a new and terrifying symptom. You can barely open your jaw. The infection has caused your muscles to seize up, a condition known as trithemus. The small jar of hope is now empty, and your situation is more dire than ever. There is no more avoiding it. The medicine has failed. It is time for the forceful approach. Once again, your long suffering neighbor helps you make the slow, agonizing journey back down the river to the physician's town. This time, there is no hope in your heart, only a cold, hard knot of fear. You know what is coming. The apprentice ushers you past the other waiting patients and directly into the inner consultation room. The physician, Edwin, is waiting for you. The look on his face is grave. He takes one look at your locked jaw and the angry, pronounced swelling, and he nods grimly. He wastes no time. He gestures for you to lie down on a low, padded couch against the wall. His assistant comes into the room. It is clear that what is about to happen is not a simple examination. It is a procedure. Edwin walks over to his instrument table, and this time, he does not reach for his jars of herbs. He picks up the bow drill. The sight of the tool sends a fresh wave of terror through you. The drill, which before seemed like a strange curiosity, now looks like an instrument of pure torture. The apprentice comes over and firmly, but not unkindly, holds your shoulders, pressing you down onto the couch. Edwin approaches. He holds the drill shut, flint a stiff spindle in one hand and the bow in the other. He loops the string around the spindle. He has read it. The core historical fact here is that ancient Egyptian surgeons, while lacking many of our modern tools, were not afraid of invasive procedures when necessary. The Edwin Smith Papyrus, a remarkable text that is considered the world's oldest surviving surgical document, details the treatment of various traumatic injuries, from skull fractures to dislocated jaws. It shows a surprisingly empirical and non-magical approach to surgery. The physicians observe, they diagnosed, and they operate. The procedure you are about to undergo is a direct descendant of this ancient surgical tradition. The physician's target is not your tooth. As debated as that procedure is, what he is about to do is well documented. He is going to drill a hole not into the tooth, but through the bone of your lower jaw. The goal is to create a channel, a drainage hole, to relieve the immense pressure that has built up from the abscess. He is, in essence, going to pop the balloon of infection from the outside. This procedure, known as trepanation of the mandible, is a dramatic and dangerous one, but it is your only hope of survival. An abscess of this severity, left untreated, could lead to sepsis and a painful, inevitable death. A strange and specific detail, confirmed by archaeological evidence, is the precision with which these procedures were sometimes carried out. Skulls and jawbones of mummies have been found with small, neat, perfectly circular holes drilled into them, with clear signs of healing around the edges. This means that not only did the physicians perform this terrifying surgery, but that the patients, at least some of them, actually survived it. It's a stunning testament to their skill and the resilience of the human body. The historical debate here among paleopathologists is about pain management. How on earth did a patient endure this? The papy mentions some substances that may have had narcotic properties, such as opium poppies or mandrake root, but their use is not clearly prescribed for this kind of procedure. Was the patient simply held down, fully conscious, and expected to endure the agony, or were there more effective anesthetics that have been lost to history? Some theories suggest that large amounts of alcohol, beer, or wine were used to intoxicate the patient into a state of semi-consciousness. It's a grisly but plausible scenario. Edwin says a few quiet, calming words to you, though they do little to quell the terror in your heart. He places the sharp tip of the drill against the outside of your jaw, right over the most prominent part of the swelling. He positions the bow, The apprentice tightens his grip on your shoulders. You clench your fist, your knuckles white. You close your eyes and pray to every god you can name. The physician takes a breath, and then he begins to move the bow. A low, ominous, buzzing sound fills the room. The ancient drill has begun its work. The low, terrifying hum of the bow drill is the only sound in the universe. Your entire existence has contracted to the small, sharp point of pressure on your jaw. The drill is slow. It is not the high minor-pitched scream of a modern dental tool, but a gritty, grinding noise. Each back minus and minus fourth stroke of the bow sends a sickening vibration through the bone, a sensation that is less like pain and more like a fundamental violation of your physical self. You can smell the faint, acrid scent of heated bone. Suddenly, just as you feel you can bear it no longer, there is a change. I give. The drill bit breaks through the final, thin layer of cortical bone and enters the abscess cavity beneath. The release of pressure is instantaneous and overwhelming. A thick, foul minus tasting wave of pus and blood erupts from the newly drilled hole, flooding your mouth and running down your chin. The relief is so profound, so immediate, that it brings tears to your eyes. It is a disgusting, messy, but utterly blessed moment. The agony that has been building for days, the feeling of being about to explode, is gone. In its place is a deep, throbbing soreness, but it is a clean pain, a healing pain. The physician, Edwin, works quickly now. He uses a small bronze spoon to gently press around the hole, draining the last of the corruption from the wound. He cleans the area with linen cloths soaked in a solution of water and natron, a natural salt mixture used for its cleansing and drying properties. The procedure, the terrifying forceful approach, is over. You have survived. You lie on the couch, weak and trembling, your body slick with sweat. The apprentice gives you a cup of cool water to rinse the foul taste from your mouth. The immediate, life-threatening danger has passed, but now begins the long, precarious road to recovery. Edwin knows that the greatest threat now is not the abscess itself, but the possibility of the wound becoming infected all over again. He now prepares a different kind of medicine. This is not the gentle, drying poultice from before. This is a powerful, protective dressing. A key historical fact of Egyptian medicine is their advanced use of wound dressings. They understood the importance of keeping a wound clean and covered. The Edwin Smith Papyrus describes closing wounds with sutures and protecting them with bandages and specific medicinal compounds. Edwin takes a piece of fresh linen and soaks it in a mixture of honey and grease. The honey, as before, acts as a potent antibacterial agent. The grease provides a waterproof barrier, protecting the open wound from the contaminants of the outside world. He carefully places this dressing over the small hole in your jaw, creating a protective seal. He instructs you that you are not to touch it. He will change it himself when you return in a few days. A niche and fascinating detail about Egyptian wound care is their use of lint, but it wasn't the fluffy stuff we think of. It was prepared by scraping the surface of a linen cloth with a knife to create a soft, absorbent, fibrous material. This lint was then often shaped into a roll or a pad to be placed directly into a wound, sometimes to keep it open for drainage. It was, in essence, a primitive form of surgical packing. The academic debate surrounding these post-minus operative procedures is about their effectiveness against infection. Without a scientific understanding of bacteria, how successful could they really be? Modern analysis has shown that many of the ingredients they used, like honey, had real antimicrobial properties. Their emphasis on cleanliness and covering the wound was also critically important, but their environment was full of dangers. The Nile water they used for cleaning was teeming with parasites and bacteria. The dust and flies were a constant source of contamination. So, was a patient's survival a testament to the skill of the physician? Or was it more a matter of the individual's own immune system and sheer dumb luck? Historians argue that for every patient who, like you, survived, countless others must have succumbed to secondary infections days or weeks after a successful procedure. Edwin gives you your post-minus operative instructions. You are to rest. You are to eat only soft foods, thin porridge, mashed beans, and beer. This last instruction is not just a kindness. Beer was a staple of the Egyptian diet, a source of calories and hydration, and its low alcohol content likely made it safer to drink than the potentially contaminated river water. Your neighbor helps you to your feet. You are shaky and profoundly exhausted, but the all-minus consuming pain that brought you here is gone. You have been to the very edge of endurance. You have faced the drill and the knife. You have been broken open, drained of poison, and patched back together by the steady, skilled hands of the SWNW. You have a hole in your jaw, but you are alive. Your long, painful dental journey is not over, but you have survived its most terrifying chapter. The journey back up the river is a different world. On the way here, you are a man trapped in a bubble of feverish, all-minus consuming pain, the world a blurry, hostile haze. Now, returning to your village, the pain has receded to a deep, manageable throb. The world seems to have come back into sharp focus. You notice the vibrant green of the reeds along the bank, the intricate patterns of a dragonfly's wings as it hovers over the water, the sound of children laughing in a distant field. You are weak, exhausted, and your face is a sore, bandaged mess. But you are present. You are alive. Gratitude is a feeling so profound it almost makes you dizzy. For the next few days, you are an invalid. You lie on your reed mat in the coolest corner of your house, and your family tends to you. Your wife grinds your porridge extra thin, making a watery gruel that you can sip without having to move your aching jaw. The beer she brings you is cool and soothing. You are a potter with hands made for shaping clay, but now you are as helpless as a newborn. Your life has been reduced to the simple, primal rhythm of sleeping, waking, and sipping your liquid meals. The physician, higher way, is true to his word. He sends his apprentice to check on you, a service that speaks to his professionalism. The apprentice changes the dressing on your jaw, cleaning the wound with practiced gentleness and applying a fresh poultice of honey and grease. The hole itself is healing well, he tells you. The corruption has been expelled, but while the immediate, life-threatening danger is gone, the underlying problem remains. Your mouth, after days of infection and decay, tastes like a swamp. The relief from the abscess is immense, but the general state of your dental affairs is grim. The broken, offending tooth is still there, a jagged ruin in your jaw. The years of grinding wear on your other teeth have not gone away. The memory of the shame he met is a stark warning that this could all happen again. When Iowa himself comes to your village a few days later for your final check, he addresses this very issue. The surgery has solved the crisis, he explains, but now you must practice better care. He is going to give you a prescription not for a cure, but for prevention. He is going to teach you how to make toothpaste. This is a stunningly advanced concept for the ancient world, a true testament to the sophistication of Egyptian medical thought. While the masses may have had terrible teeth, the elite and the physicians who served them had developed genuine oral hygiene practices. The recipe IOI gives you is both simple and surprisingly effective. He instructs your wife to find for things. First, 1 part of crushed rock salt. This will be the abrasive, the grit that will scrub the teeth clean. Second, 2 parts of mint leaves, dried and finely crumbled. This is for the breath, to counter the foul odors of decay. Third, 1 part of dried iris flower, another fragrant ingredient believed to have cleansing properties. And finally, for a touch of potency, 20 grains of black pepper, crushed into a fine powder. A strange and wonderful piece of trivia is that this very recipe, or one almost identical to it, was discovered on a piece of papyrus from the 4th century AD in the collection of the Austrian National Library in Vienna. When modern dentists created it, they found it was quite abrasive but described it as working surprisingly well, leaving the mouth feeling clean and fresh. You are about to experience a dental sensation that was, until recently, lost to history for nearly 2 millennia. Your wife prepares the mixture, grinding the ingredients together with a pestle and mortar, creating a fine, grayish-green powder that smells sharp, salty, and wonderfully minty. This is not a paste in a tube. It is a tooth powder, IOY shows you how to use it. You are to dip your wet fingertip into the powder, and then rub the gritty, fragrant dust all over your teeth and gums. You do as you are told. The sensation is bizarre. The salt is sharp and abrasive. The pepper gives a faint, tingling heat. That, overpowering it all, is the clean, cool, refreshing explosion of the mint. It is a taste of pure, vibrant life in a mouth that has only known the taste of sickness. The academic debate here focuses on how widespread these practices were. Was this kind of advanced oral hygiene, this minty, pepper-laced toothpaste, something available to the general population? Oh, was it? Like so many of the physician's arts, a luxury reserved for the wealthy elite who could afford the ingredients and the specialized knowledge. The dire state of most mummies' teeth suggests that while the knowledge existed, it was likely not common practice for the average farmer or craftsman. Your prescription for toothpaste may be another sign of your rising status as a skilled potter, a man who can afford the very best in dental aftercare. You rinse your mouth with water, spitting out the gritty residue. For the first time in weeks, your mouth does not feel like a tomb. It feels alive. The soreness is still there, a deep, resonant take from the bone itself. But the surface, the part you can control, feels clean. It is a new kind of hope. The physician has not only saved your life from the consuming sickness, he has given you a tool, a strange and potent powder, to help you fight the daily battle against the sand in your bread and the ever-present threat of decay. Your life slowly returns to a semblance of normalcy. The wound in your jaw heals with surprising speed, the small hole in the bone knitting itself back together. The soreness subsides, and you are eventually able to eat solid food again, though you chew every mouthful of your gritty bread with a newfound, cautious respect. Your daily routine of rubbing your teeth with the mint- pepper powder becomes a cherished ritual, a small act of defiance against the forces of decay. You are, for the moment, a man at peace with his own mouth. One day, you must return to the physician's town to deliver a set of fine offering bowls you have made for him as a final thank you. While you are waiting in his reception room, another patient emerges from the inner sanctum. He is a man of obvious wealth and status, a scribe or a minor official, judging by his fine linen kilt and the silver amulet around his neck. But it is not his clothing that catches your eye. It is his smile, as he thanks the physician's apprentice. He gives a wide, unguarded smile, and you see something that makes you lean forward in astonishment. Gleaming in the front of the man's mouth, you see a network of fine, golden threads. They are woven intricately around two of his lower front teeth, binding them to their healthier, more stable neighbors. The gold wire is so fine, so delicately worked, that it is almost invisible unless the light catches it just right. The man is not in pain. In fact, he seems proud of this strange, glittering dental wear. You have just witnessed one of the most sophisticated and rarest procedures in all of ancient Egyptian dentistry, the dental bridge. The wealthy man has been suffering from a different kind of dental problem than yours. Not a consuming abscess, but a disease of the gums that has caused several of his teeth to become loose in their sockets. To save them from falling out completely, the physician has performed this remarkable feat of engineering. He has, in essence, splintered the loose teeth to the strong ones, creating a single, more stable unit. This is a core historical fact, though one shrouded in rarity. A handful of mummies, usually from very high status burials, have been discovered with this kind of advanced dental brickwork. The technique demonstrates a remarkable level of skill. The physicians had to drill tiny, precise holes through the teeth they feed that sparks, return to bait and then thread the fine gold or silver wire through them, tightening it just enough to provide support without causing further damage. It was not a cure for the underlying gum disease, but it was a clever and effective way to prolong the life of the existing teeth, a cosmetic and functional triad. A weirdly specific detail about this practice is the choice of material gold. Why gold? Not just for its beauty and status, though that was certainly part of it. Gold is an incredibly malleable and ductile metal, meaning it can be drawn into very fine wire without breaking. More importantly, It is biochemically inert. It does not rust or corrode in the wet environment of the mouth, making it the perfect material for this kind of permanent dental implant. The Egyptians may not have understood the chemistry, but they knew from observation that gold was a metal that endured, a piece of the divine, immortal sun that you could put in your mouth. The academic debate surrounding these golden bridges is fierce. Are they evidence of a thriving, sophisticated dental practice, or are they something else entirely? Some scholars argue that much of this dental work was purely cosmetic, or importantly, post-mortem. They suggest that these bridges were put in place by the embalmers after death, as part of the process of making the deceased look whole and perfect for their journey into the afterlife. A loose tooth might be lost during the mummification process, so the emblem would simply wire it back in. The debate hinges on signs of wear and tear. If the gold wire shows signs of being worn down by chewing, it suggests the bridge was used in life. If it is pristine, it may have been purely funerary. This controversy highlights the difficulty of interpreting archaeological evidence, the fine line between practical medicine and ritual preparation for the great beyond. You watch as the wealthy man departs, his golden smile a testament to a level of care you can only dream of. Your own survival was a matter of a hold willed in your bone and a prescription for tooth powder. His was a matter of delicate, golden artistry. It is a stark reminder of the class divisions in your society, a gap that is visible even in the state of your teeth. You deliver your pottery to a wise apprentice and leave the town, your mind buzzing with what you have seen. The journey home is filled with a new kind of wonder. You have experienced the physician's skill firsthand, the brutal but effective surgery that saved your life. Now you have seen its other side, the delicate, almost magical craft that can bind a man's smile together with threads of pure gold. It makes you rub your own jaw, feeling the solid, healed bone beneath the skin, and you feel a renewed sense of awe for the strange, powerful, and mysterious art of the SWNW. The image of the golden threads in the nobleman's mouth stays with you for many days. It is a symbol of a world of medicine and wealth that is far removed from your own humble existence. Your own transaction with the physician, via Y, was much more direct and earthy. There were no precious metals involved, only the goods you could create with your own two hands. This brings you to the fundamental economic reality of your world, a life without coins. The concept of money, of standardized, government-issued currency, has not yet arrived in Egypt. Your society functions on a highly complex and deeply ingrained system of barter and trade. Value is measured in goods and labor. A pot has a certain worth. A sack of grain has another. A day of labor has another. Your entire economic life is a constant, fluid negotiation of these values. When you first sought the physician's help, you paid for his services with your finest pottery. This was a classic example of the barter system in action. You, a specialist in clay, traded your goods with a specialist in medicine. The apprentice who accepted your pots would not have kept them. The physician's household would have then used those pots to trade for other things. They needed, perhaps trading a large water jar to a farmer for a supply of dates, or a set of fine bowls to a weaver for a new linen shawl for the physician's wife. Your pottery entered into a complex web of commerce, its value transforming with each new transaction. The most important commodity in this entire system, the closest thing you have to a universal currency, is grain. Grain, emmer, wheat and barley is the bedrock of the Egyptian economy. A mainstream historical point is that workers on major state projects, like the construction of tombs and temples, were not paid in money, but in rations of grain, bread, and beer. The value of almost everything else could be measured against a standard unit of grain. This system is known as a deben economy, though the deben itself was not a coin, but a measure of weight, roughly 91 grams. An official price list from a new kingdom to minus builder's village gives us a fascinating glimpse into this world. A simple wooden bed might be valued at 4 deben of silver. A bull could be worth up to 30, but these deben were just an abstract unit of account. The actual transaction would almost never involve the physical exchange of metal. Instead, a buyer would have to assemble a collection of good spots, cloth, food, tools that added up to the equivalent value of 4 deben of silver. It was a system that required everyone to be a savvy, if informal, appraiser of goods. A strange and specific detail of this barter economy is the shatai. A shatai was a silver ring, often worn as jewelry, that had a standardized weight. While not a true coin, it was one of the first forms of portable, standardized wealth. If you were a wealthy merchant involved in a very large transaction, you might use a few shatai to balance the deal. But for an everyday person like you, these were rare and exotic items. Your wealth is in your hands, in your skill, in the number of good, sturdy pots you can produce in a day. The historical debate here among economists and Egyptologists is about the efficiency of such a system. Was a lack of coinage a major hindrance to economic development, making every transaction a clumsy and complicated negotiation? Or was it a more flexible and community-oriented system, built on personal relationships and mutual trust rather than impersonal cash transactions? Some scholars argue that the barter system kept the economy localized and limited its growth potential. Others contend that the sophisticated system of equivalencies, with grain as the standard, allowed for a vibrant and surprisingly complex national economy to flourish for millennia without the need for a single mint. You think back to your payment to IOI. The pots you gave him were the result of many days of hard labor digging the clay from the riverbank, shaping it on your simple, hand-turned wheel, firing it in your kiln. You poured your time, your skill, and your energy into those objects. The physician, in turn, had poured his years of training, his rare knowledge, and his steady handed skill into saving your life. In the end, it was a fair trade, skill for skill, life for life. No coins were necessary. Your healed jaw and his well-stocked kitchen are all the proof needed that the ancient, intricate dance of barter is working just as it should. The memory of the transaction fades, replaced by the simple, immediate reality of your own body. The journey through the landscape of Egyptian medicine has left its mark on you. You are healed, yes, but you are not the same man who first bit down on that piece of gritty bread weeks ago. Your recovery is a slow, gradual process, a daily negotiation with your own frailty. In the first week after the procedure, your life is a study in softness. You are under strict orders from IOI to avoid any hard foods. Your diet consists of the thin, watery porridge your wife prepares, lentil soups, mashed fava beans, and, of course, the ever-present beer. The thought of chewing, of putting any pressure on your still aching jaw, is terrifying. You live in fear of disrupting the delicate, healing magic that is taking place inside the bone. You spend most of your days resting in the shade, watching your children play in the dust, or simply staring at the slow, endless movement of the great trigger. You are a man of action, a craftsman whose identity is tied to his work. But now, you are forced into stillness. This period of convalescence is a strange, liminal state. You are not sick, but you are not yet well. You are in between. The greatest fear during this time is one you don't have a specific name for, but you feel it in your gut. It is the fear of a relapse, of the shimi returning. You are religious in your application of the physician's mint, minus pepper tooth powder. You are meticulous about keeping the dressing on your jaw clean. Every morning, you wake up and the first thing you do is take a mental inventory of your body. Is there any new swelling? Any feverish heat? Any return of that uniquely foul taste of corruption? This fear of post-operative infection was the great, silent killer of the ancient world. A key historical point is that even the most brilliantly executed surgery could be rendered useless by the microscopic enemies the physicians could not see and did not understand. A surgeon could set a bone perfectly or drain an abscess with precision, but if the wound became infected, the patient would likely die a slow, agonizing death from sepsis. Survival was a race between the body's ability to heal and the bacteria's ability to multiply. You are one of the lucky ones. The wound on your jaw closes cleanly. The swelling vanishes completely. The deep, bony ache fades to a distant memory. Slowly, cautiously, you begin to reintroduce solid foods into your diet. The first time you successfully chew a piece of bread you roll, gritty enemy without a flare minus up of pain feels like a monumental victory. A fascinatingly specific detail about this recovery process comes from the dental evidence itself. When paleopathologists examine the jaws of mummies who survived procedures like yours, they can see the story of their recovery written in the bone. They can see the smooth, rounded edges of the drill hole, indicating that the bone had time to heal and remodel itself. They can see the evidence of bone regrowth. These silent, skeletal records are a powerful testament to the resilience of the patients and the effectiveness, at least in some cases, of the care they receive. The academic debate here focuses on the Egyptian concept of health and disease. Did they view healing as a purely physical process, a matter of the body knitting itself back together? Or was it, like the illness itself, a process that involved the magical and divine? The evidence suggests the latter. A patient recovering from a procedure would likely continue to recite healing spells, wear protective amulets, and make offerings to the gods of healing. The physician had done his part, but the gods had to do theirs. Recovery was a partnership between medicine, magic, and the patient's own piety. Your survival is not just a credit to IOI skill with about real, but also to the power of Teti's spells and your own dutiful offerings. Weeks pass. The bandage is long gone. A small, neat scar on your jaw is the only external sign of your ordeal. You are back at your potter's wheel, your hands moving with their all familiar skill. You are stronger. You can eat normally. You can laugh without a twinge of pain. You have journeyed to the brink and returned. You have been taken apart and put back together. You carry the memory of the pain, the fear, and the bizarre, terrifying, and ultimately successful journey through the world of ancient Egyptian medicine. You are a survivor, a walking testament to the strange and powerful arts that guard the health of those who live along the banks of the sacred Nile. You are back in the rhythm of your life. The potter's wheel turns beneath your hands. The clay responds to your familiar touch, and the sun marks the passing of your days. The memory of the consuming pain and the terrifying drill has started to fade, replaced by a deep, abiding respect for your own healed body. But your ordeal has changed you. You now pay attention to things you once ignored. You listen to the stories and whispers that travel up and down the river with a new, more discerning ear, particularly when they speak of teeth. One evening, as you share a meal with a traveling merchant who has stopped in your village, you hear a story that makes you pause, your hand halfway to your mouth. The merchant is a man who has seen many things, and he speaks of the court of the pharaoh himself, a place of unimaginable wealth and power in the great city of Memphis. He talks about the pharaoh's food, not the gritty bread of common folk, but bread made from the finest, most carefully sifted flour, and cakes sweetened with copious amounts of rare and precious honey. You, like everyone, know that the pharaoh is more than a man. He is a living god, a divine being whose health and well-minus being are essential to the stability of the entire kingdom. It is a core tenet of your society that the king must be perfect, whole, and strong. Therefore, it stands to reason that the care he receives is unlike anything a common person could ever imagine. The merchant tells you that the pharaoh does not just have one SWNW. He has a whole team of them, an elite cadre of specialists, each one dedicated to a different part of the divine body. And, the merchant whispers, leaning in as if sharing a great secret, the pharaoh has his own chief of the tooth-minus doctors and the palace physicians, a man whose entire existence, his entire career, is dedicated to the well-minus being of the royal mouth. The title itself, IOI-CB-IOI-WEL, speaks of an almost unimaginable level of specialization and prestige. This is a mainstream historical point, confirmed by inscriptions found in tombs. We know the names of several of these high minors, ranking royal dentists, like Hisai-Ray, who served under the 3rd dynasty pharaoh Djoser and is sometimes called the first dentist in history. His elaborate tomb is filled with titles proclaiming his importance, not just as a physician, but as a powerful court official. The dental health of the king was, quite literally, a matter of state. You try to imagine the kind of care this royal dentist would provide. Your own treatment involved a brilliant poultice of herbs and honey. What wonders could be performed for a living god? The merchant, his voice low and full of awe, shares the rumors. They speak of dental fillings made not of simple linen and honey, but of a secret, resinous scum mixed with powdered malachite, a vibrant green stone believed to have powerful magical and healing properties. They speak of royal toothpaste made not just with mint, but with flakes of actual gold. A particularly strange and specific rumor he shares is that of replantation. He says that if the pharaoh were to have a tooth knocked out in an accident, the royal dentist would not discard it. He would take the tooth, soak it in a sacred solution, and then physically place it back into the empty socket in the jaw, using a magical incantation to command it to take root again. While there is no definitive proof of this specific procedure being successful, the very idea that it was contemplated shows a level of ambition and a belief in the physician's power that is simply staggering. The academic debate around royal dental care is fascinating. Did the pharaohs, despite their elite diet and specialized care, still suffer from the same dental problems as their subjects? The evidence from royal mummies is mixed. Some pharaohs, like Amenhotep II, had teeth that were in an absolutely ruinous state, worn down to the stumps and riddled with abscesses, suggesting that even the best care could not fully overcome the environmental factors and the diseases of the time. Other royal mummies show surprisingly healthy teeth. This has led to a debate: was the quality of a pharaoh's teeth a reflection of the skill of his dentists, or was it more a matter of the individual's genetic, diet, and luck? Perhaps even the chief of the tooth-minus doctors could only do so much in the face of a particularly bad set of royal genes. You listen to the merchant's stories, and you are filled with a sense of wonder. Your own journey into the world of dentistry was a brutal, terrifying, but ultimately successful struggle for survival. The pharaoh's dental life, as described by the merchant, sounds like something from a different universe. It is a world of preventative care, of cosmetic artistry, of magical cures and proactive treatments. The merchant finishes his story and moves on to other tales of the capital. But you are left thinking about the chasm that separates your own healed jaw, with its missing molar and its faint scar, from the imagined, perfect smile of the living God on the throne. It reinforces a simple, powerful truth in the land of Egypt. While the sand in the bread may be the great equalizer, the quality of the care you receive is anything but. The merchant's tales of the pharaoh's golden smile and magical dentists linger in your mind for days, a fascinating glimpse into a world you will never see. But such stories are a luxury, and the demands of your own life are immediate. You are a potter, and the rhythm of your work reclaims you. The wet clay spins on the wheel, your hands move with an instinct born of years of practice, and the sun bakes the finished pots in your kiln. Your jaw is a distant memory, a healed battle scar. You are healthy, you are whole, and then, one morning, you feel a familiar, unwelcome twinge. It's on the other side of your mouth this time. It is not the electric shock you felt before, but the insistent take deep within a molar you had never paid much attention to. At first, you dismiss it. It is nothing, a stray piece of grit in the bread, perhaps a phantom pain, the memory of your past trauma. You go about your day, trying to ignore it, but the small, quiet signal refuses to be silenced. It is a tiny drum, beating a slow, ominous rhythm of warning. By evening, you cannot deny it any longer. The ache is real. It is the same character, the same deep, bony pain you felt at the very beginning of your last ordeal. A cold dread settles in the pit of your stomach. Not again, please, not again. You probe the new area of concern with your tongue. You can't feel a jagged edge or a clear break, but the tooth just feels wrong. It is tender, sensitive. It feels weak, compromised. You lie on your reed mat that night, but sleep does not come. The new ache, though still minor, has ignited a firestorm of memory. You remember the sleepless nights, the swelling, the fever. You remember the wise woman's useless spells and the physician's terrifying drill. You remember the taste of pus and the agony of the healing. and you are overwhelmed by a single, crushing thought: this is not over. This will never be over. This is the grim, fundamental reality for the average ancient Egyptian. Your environment, your very diet, is locked in a permanent conspiracy against your dental health. You can survive one abscess. Yes, you can have it drained by a skilled physician. He can give you minty tooth powder and sensible advice, but he cannot change the bread. He cannot remove the sand from the flour. The abrasive assault on your teeth will continue, day after day, year after year. It is an unwinnable war. The dental evidence from Egyptian cemeteries paints a clear and heartbreaking picture of this lifelong battle. Skeletons of older individuals often show evidence of multiple, recurrent dental problems. They have numerous missing teeth, jaws pitted with the scars of healed abscesses, and teeth worn down so far that the pulp chamber is completely exposed to the open air. Their lives were a recurring cycle of dental pain, infection, brief periods of relief, and then the inevitable start of a new problem in a different tooth. A strange and specific detail that highlights this cycle of suffering is the discovery of palliative care. In some skulls, archaeologists have found teeth that were clearly diseased and painful, but instead of being treated surgically, they were packed with a mixture of linen fibers and pain-soothing herbs, like chemern. This wasn't a cure. It was the ancient equivalent to stuffing a bit of cotton with clove oil into a cavity. It was a temporary, desperate measure to make an unbearable situation slightly more bearable. It's the signature of a person who is simply trying to get through the day. The historical debate here revolves around the concept of quality of life. We often think of history in terms of great battles, dynastic changes, and monumental constructions, but for the vast majority of people, history was the intimate, daily experience of their own bodies. What was it like to live in a state of chronic, low-grade dental pain? How did it affect your ability to work, to eat, to sleep, to find joy in your life? Some historians argue that we underestimate the resilience of ancient people, that they had a much higher tolerance for pain and discomfort than we do today. Others contend that this constant, nagging pain was a major, if unrecorded, source of misery that cast a long, dark shadow over their entire existence. You lie in the dark, the new egg, a tiny seed of a future agony. All the knowledge you have gained now seems like a curse. You know exactly what is coming. You know the stages of the pain, the progression of the swelling. You know the journey down the river, the physician's tools, the long, slow recovery. The thought of going through it all again is almost more painful than the ache itself. You turn on your mat, pressing the cool side of your cheek against the reeds. The river flows outside, indifferent. The moon shines down, impassive. The great cycle of Egyptian life of flood and harvest, of birth and death, is mirrored in the small, painful cycle of your own jaw. It is a feeling of profound, weary resignation. The battle is not over. A new one has just begun. The dawn comes, as it always does, painting the eastern sky in shades of rose and gold. You rise from your mat, your body stiff, your mind heavy with the weary acceptance of your fate. The new ache in your jaw is still there, a quiet but persistent reminder of the battle to come. But you are an Egyptian. Your entire culture is built upon a foundation of cycles, of repetition, of enduring what must be endured. You will face this. You do not rush to the wise woman. You do not, yet, prepare for a journey to the physician. You know the stages of this illness now. It is still in its infancy. For now, you will rely on the knowledge you purchased at such a great price. You will be your own first line of defense. You go to the small niche where your wife keeps the herbs and spices. You take out the small stone mortar and pestle. You measure out the ingredients for your tooth powder: the crushed rock salt, the fragrant mint leaves, the dried iris flower, and the sharp black pepper. You grind them together, the familiar, abrasive, and minty scent filling the small room. This is your weapon. You go down to the riverbed, to the edge of the great, life-giving Nile. The water is cool and green in the morning light. Instead of just dipping your finger in the water, you scoop some up in one of your own pottery cups. You mix a small amount of the tooth powder with the water, creating a gritty, greenish paste. It is a more refined version of the treatment, an improvement you have devised yourself. You pack this paste around the newly aching tooth, holding it there, letting the coolness of the water and the sharp tingle of the mint and pepper do their work. You are no longer a passive victim, waiting for a magician's spell or a doctor's decree. You are an active participant in your own healthcare. You are applying the lessons you have learned. This small act represents a major theme in the history of medicine, the transfer of knowledge from the practitioner to the patient. While the SWNW and the priests held the keys to the most powerful remedies and rituals, everyday people were not helpless. They had their own body of folk knowledge, their own household medicine, which they used to manage their daily aches and pains. Your new routine is a perfect example of this, a blend of the physician's expert prescription and your own practical, homespun application. You stand by the river, the paste slowly dissolving in your mouth. You look out at the water. The Nile is the source of all life in your land. It irrigates the fields. It provides fish to eat. Its mud creates the clay for your pots and the bricks for your house. But you also know it is the source of other, less benevolent things. Its waters can carry disease. And the sand that blows from the deserts it defines is the very same, and that is now grinding your teeth to dust. A strange and specific detail of the Egyptian relationship with the Nile is their awareness of its dangers. The medical papier contained treatments for ailments caused by invisible parasites in the water, what we would now identify as schistosomiyces or guinea worm. They knew that the life minus giving water also harbored life minus taking dangers. They had prescriptions to drive out the serpents in the belly. This duality defined their world. The Nile gives, and the Nile takes away. The academic debate here touches on the Egyptian concept of fate and free will. Were they fatalists, passively accepting the hardships of their lives as the will of the gods? Or did they believe they had agency, the ability to change their own destiny? Your actions this morning suggest a middle path. You accept the reality of your situation, the fate of the bad bread, but you are not passive. You are using the tools and knowledge at your disposal to fight back, to improve your own odds, to exercise what little control you have. You are not trying to change the river. You are simply trying to navigate your way along it more safely. You spit the last of the gritty paste into the river. The ache in your jaw has, for the moment, subsided. The cool mint has left your mouth feeling cleaner, and your spirit, buoyed by your own proactive efforts, feels a little lighter. You do not know if this new ache will blossom into another consuming shimimet. You do not know if another trip to the physician's house lies in your future. But as you watch the great river flow past, the same today as it was yesterday, the same as it will be tomorrow, you feel a sense of profound, weary alignment with it. Your life, like the river, is a cycle of bounty and hardship. Your body, like the land, is subject to forces beyond your control. All you can do is wake up each day, tend to your small patch of existence, and face what comes with the tools you have. You turn away from the water and walk back to your workshop, ready to face the day, the familiar, the ache in your jaw, a quiet counterpoint to the steady, enduring rhythm of the Nile. The days that follow fall into a new, cautious rhythm. The ache in your jaw remains, the low, grumbling baseline to your existence. It does not worsen into the fiery agony of the shimimet, but it does not leave. It is a stubborn, unwelcome guest who has taken up residence in your face. Your morning ritual by the river, applying your mint minus and minus pepper paste, becomes the anchor of your day. It is a small act of control in a situation that feels largely beyond your power. You learn to live with the pain. You adapt. You become an expert in the geography of your own mouth, knowing exactly how to chew a piece of bread to avoid putting pressure on the sensitive tooth. You learn to sleep on your other side. The pain is no longer a crisis. It has become a chronic condition, a part of the texture of your daily life. One afternoon, you are at your wheel, your hands slick with wet clay, shaping a large water jar. Your mind is focused on the spinning fork, on the gentle pressure of your fingers guiding the clay upwards. In this state of deep concentration, you are momentarily free from your body. You adjust your hands in the pot, and then You hear a sound from inside the house that makes your hands freeze. It is the sound of your youngest son, crying down the loud, angry cry of a child who has fallen and scraped his knee, but a high-pitched, miserable way of persistent pain. Your wife comes out of the house, her face etched with worry. The boy, who is only 5 years old, is holding his hand to his own cheek, in the exact same gesture you have become so familiar with. His face is flushed with fever. He has a toothache. You feel a strange, complex wave of emotions. First, a deep, empathetic pity. You know the exact nature of his suffering. You know the insidious, gnawing quality of the pain he is feeling. But beneath the pity, there is a sense of cold, grim inevitability. Of course, the cycle continues. The sand in the bread, the enemy you have been fighting your whole life, does not spare your children. You abandon your work and go to him. You hold him, trying to soothe him with quiet words. You look into his mouth, and you see it a small, dark spot on one of his baby teeth. A cavity. The worm has found a new home. This is a key historical point. While we often focus on the extreme teeth wear in adult mummies, children were not immune. Their baby teeth were also subject to decay, especially with a diet that, for the wealthy, could be high in sugar from dates and honey. For a common family like yours, the grit in the food was the primary culprit, abrading even their young, temporary teeth. You now face a new dilemma. What do you do? The journey to the physician is arduous and expensive. A procedure like the one you endured is unthinkable for a small child. You must turn to the knowledge you have. You do what you know how to do. You take a tiny pinch of your precious tooth powder, the one with the mint and pepper, and you gently rub it on the boy's sore gum. He cries out at the strange, sharp taste and the abrasion, but then, as the coolness of the mint takes hold, his crying subsides a little. Then, you turn to the other half of the treatment you receive. You turn to magic. A weirdly specific detail of Egyptian life was the prevalence of protective amulets, especially for children. Children were considered particularly vulnerable to evil spirits and dangerous forces, so they were often adorned with small charms to protect them. The most common was the Eye of Horus, or Decayed Eye, a powerful symbol of protection and healing. Your son already wears one around his neck on a leather cord. Now you add to it. You hold the boy, and you begin to chant. You do not have the ancient, powerful words of the wise woman or the physician. You have only the memory of their rhythm, their cadence. You murmur your own prayer, your own spell. You speak to the worm in your son's tooth. You tell it to leave. You ask the protection of the great gods. You place your hand on his cheek, trying to pour your own strength, your own experience, into him. The academic debate here focuses on the role of family in ancient healthcare. In the absence of a formal, state-run medical system, the family was the primary unit of care. Parents, particularly mothers, were the first responders to illness. They were the keepers of household remedies, the singers of protective lullabies, the first line of defense for their children against a dangerous world. What you are doing now, combining a practical, medicinal remedy with a magical, protective ritual, is likely the most common form of healthcare practiced in all of ancient Egypt. The boy, exhausted from his pain and soothed by the rhythmic murmur of your voice, finally drifts into a fitful sleep in your arms. You hold him, looking at his small, feverish face, and you see the future. You see his life stretching ahead of him, a life that will be marked by this same recurring battle. You see him learning to chew on one side, learning to live with the pain. You see him, years from now, perhaps making the same journey down the river that you made. The empathy you feel is profound. The pain is no longer just your own. It is a shared, inherited burden, a legacy passed down from father to son, baked into the very bread you eat to survive. You hold him close, a wave of fierce, protective love washing over you. You will do everything you can for him. You will use your herbs, your spells, your knowledge, but you know, with a deep, sad certainty, that it will not be enough. The cycle is relentless, and it has already begun anew. You carry your sleeping son back into the house and lay him gently on his mat. His small face is still flushed, but for now, he is at peace. The quiet empathy you feel for him, the shared experience of the two thoughts, connects you in a way that is deeper than words. Your own low-grade ache seems insignificant in comparison. The world of adult responsibility, of providing for and protecting your family, settles heavily on your shoulders. You walk back outside into the late afternoon sun. The village is quiet. The rhythm of the day is winding down. You stand and stare to the north, in the direction of the great cities of Memphis and Thebes, the centers of power and wealth, and you think again of the merchants' stories. You think of the pharaoh. You try to imagine a life free from this constant, grinding battle, a life where the bread is soft and pure, where the water is always clean, where a team of specialists stands, ready to address the slightest hint of pain. It is a world as remote and magical to you as the land of the gods. The health of the pharaoh was not just a personal matter. It was a reflection of the health of the nation itself, a concept known as Mayat. Mayat was the divine principle of order, truth, and cosmic balance. The pharaoh's duty was to uphold Mayat on earth. Therefore, his body had to be a perfect vessel, free from the decay and disorder that plagued common mortals. A sick pharaoh was a sign that Mayat was disturbed, a terrifying omen for the entire kingdom. This is why the resources dedicated to royal health were essentially limitless. You imagine the pharaoh's morning routine. He would not use his own finger to rub a gritty powder on his teeth. A servant would do it for him, using a chew-stick. This was a common dental tool in the ancient world, a thin twig from a specific tree like the Salvador Iberica, one end of which was frayed into a soft, brush-like bundle. The servant would dip this brush into the finest, most fragrant tooth powder and gently clean the royal teeth. If the pharaoh felt the slightest twinge of pain, he would not need to make a long, arduous journey. The chief of the tooth-minus doctors would be summoned instantly. His examination would be deferential and gentle. His tools would not be of common bronze, but of polished silver or even gold. A strange but specific detail that illustrates the gulf between royal and commoner healthcare is the concept of the palace pharmacy. Large temples in the royal court itself maintained their own extensive pharmacies and laboratories for compounding medicines. They had access to the rarest and most exotic ingredients, imported at great expense from faraway lands, precious spices from Pan, lapis lazuli from Afghanistan. A poultice for a royal abscess might contain ingredients that were worth more than your entire workshop. The academic debate here is a classic one in the study of any ancient civilization. To what extent can we extrapolate from the elite to understand the masses? For many years, our understanding of Egyptian medicine was based almost entirely on the medical papier and the evidence from royal and high-minus status tombs. This created a skewed picture, a top-down view of history. We knew a great deal about the diseases of kings and the prescriptions of their elite doctors. It is only more recently, through the careful archaeological study of common cemeteries and workers, villages like Medina, that we have begun to piece together the health realities of the other 99% of the population. The story of your bow-drill surgery is, in many ways, a more historically representative story than the tale of the pharaoh's golden smile. You picture the pharaoh, healthy and strong, presiding over a great festival. His teeth are white and perfect. His smile is a blessing upon the land. And then you picture yourself, a man with a scarred jaw, a missing molar, and a new egg just beginning its destructive journey. You feel a flash of something, a feeling you quickly suppress. It is not quite anger, not quite envy. It is a profound, weary sense of the unchangeable order of things. The gods have decreed that he should be a living god, and you should be a potter. He is the head of the great body of Egypt, and you are just one of the millions of tiny cells that make it up. It is his job to be perfect. It is your job to endure. His health is a national concern. Your health is a small, private battle, fought with the help of your family, your community, and the limited knowledge you can afford. The sun is setting, casting long shadows across the dusty ground. You turn away from your northward gaze and look back at your own small house. You can hear your son stirring inside. Your place is here. Your battles are here. The pharaoh has his world, and you have yours. And in your world, the most important thing is not the perfection of your smile, but the simple, dogged resilience of your spirit. The sun dips below the western horizon, and the sky bleeds from orange to a deep, bruised purple. The heat of the day gives way to the cool embrace of the desert night. You sit outside your house, watching the first stars appear, sharp and brilliant in the clear, dry air. Your son is sleeping again, his small crisis having passed for now. Your own ache has faded into the background, a familiar, low hum beneath the quiet symphony of the night. This moment feels like a crossroads. You have been on an incredible journey. You started as a simple craftsman, your world designed by the clay on your wheel and the bread from your oven. Then, a tiny failure in the landscape of your mouth, a broken tooth plunged you into a world of pain, magic, and medicine. You have faced down a mythical worm with spells and poultices. You have traveled the great river in a state of feverish agony. You have lain on a physician's couch and felt the terrifying, grinding bite of a drill in your own bone. You have survived. You have learned things you never expected to learn. You have learned the secrets of the SWNWS medicine chest, the power of honey and frankincense. You have learned a recipe for toothpaste that fills your mouth with a sharp, clean fire of mint and pepper. You have seen evidence of dental artistry, fine, golden threads woven between the teeth of the wealthy that you would have never believed possible. You have peered behind the curtain of your own simple existence and glimpsed the complex, fascinating, and often brutal world of ancient Egyptian healthcare. But what is the ultimate lesson of this journey? Is it a story of triumph? A testament to the skill of the physician and the resilience of your own body? Yes, in a way, you are alive. After all, you survived an ordeal that could have easily killed you. But as you sit here in the gathering darkness, another, more somber truth settles over you. The story is not over. The new ache in your jaw is a quiet, insistent reminder of her. This is not a single battle that, once won, is over forever. This is a lifelong war. A war fought on multiple fronts. It is a war against the sand in your bread, a war against the invisible forces of decay, a war against the limitations of your own body. This is a core concept that historians of medicine often grapple with: the difference between acute and chronic illness in the pre-modern world. An acute crisis, like your abscess, could sometimes be overcome with a dramatic intervention, but the chronic, underlying conditions, the relentless dental wear, the nutritional deficiencies, the constant exposure to parasites, these were things that could only be managed, not cured. Life for most people was a state of constant negotiation with pain and infirmity. A specific, telling detail comes from the study of Egyptian skeletal remains. It's common to find evidence of multiple, healed injuries and infections on a single skeleton. An individual might show a healed bone fracture, the scars of a dental abscess like yours, and signs of arthritis in their spine. This tells a story of a life of physical hardship, but it also tells a story of survival. This person endured, they healed, and they kept going. They were, like you, veterans of many small, private wars. The final academic debate is perhaps the most profound. How did the ancient Egyptians themselves conceive of this lifelong struggle? Did they see it as a tragedy, a sign of a flawed and fallen world? Or did they view it through the lens of their own powerful cosmology? Their entire religious system was built on the idea of cycles, the daily cycle of the sun god Ra, who died every night and was reborn every morning. The annual cycle of the Nile's flood, which brought death and destruction, but also the fertile silt that guaranteed new life. Perhaps they saw their own bodies in the same way, as a constant cycle of decay and renewal, of sickness and healing. Your ordeal was a form of death. You descended into the underworld of pain and fever, and through the skill of the physician and the magic of the gods, you were reborn. The new ache in your jaw is not a sign that your rebirth was a failure. It is simply the beginning of the next cycle. It is the sun setting once more, with the promise, however daunting, of another dawn. You look up at the vast, storm-dusted sky. The universe is immense, and your small, aching jaw is an insignificant speck within it. But it is your speck. It is your battle. You do not feel despair. You do not feel anger. You feel a strange sense of calm, a deep, quiet resignation that is not the same as defeat. It is the acceptance of a farmer who knows that every harvest will be followed by a fallow season. It is the acceptance of a potter who knows that some of his pots will crack in the fire. You have a new ache. You have a new battle to fight. But you also have new knowledge, new tools. You have your minty tooth powder. You know the way to the physician's house. You know the path through the pain. The worm may return, in this tooth or the next, but this time, you will be ready for it. The night deepens. The village around you is completely silent, save for the gentle chirping of crickets and the distant bark of a dog. Your son is breathing evenly in his sleep, his small crisis having passed for now. Your own ache has faded into the background, a familiar hum beneath the quiet symphony of the night. You rise from your seat and walk, as you have done so many times, down the short, dusty path to the riverbank. The Nile lies before you, a vast, dark ribbon of silver under the light of the moon and stars. The air here is cooler, carrying the damp, fertile smell of the black earth and the sweet scent of unseen flowers blooming in the dark. You stand at the water's edge, looking into its mysterious, reflective surface. This river is the beginning and the end of all things in your world. Your journey began here, and in a way, it ends here too. You think back to the man you were just a few weeks ago, a man whose greatest worry was the proper shape of a pot or the heat of his kiln. That man is gone. In his place is someone who has an intimate, personal understanding of his own fragility. You have learned that the body is not a fortress, but a temporary vessel, one that is constantly under siege from forces both seen and unseen. You have a new, profound respect for the simple act of eating without pain. You have a new appreciation for the blessing of a cool, fever-free sleep, and you have a deep, abiding awe for the knowledge of men like I.R.Y. He is no longer just a distant, expensive specialist. He is a savior, a man who, with his strange tools and his steady hands, pulled you back from the brink. You understand now that his skill is a different kind of magic, as powerful and mysterious as any spell whispered by a village healer. You also have a new relationship with the ingredients of your world. Honey is no longer just a sweetener for cakes. It is a potent, golden medicine, a balm that soothes and cleanses. Mint is not just a fragrant herb. It is the taste of cleanliness, the feeling of a fresh start. These simple, everyday things have been imbued with a new, sacred power, a power you have felt on your own skin, in your own mouth. This transformation of perspective is a common thread in the human experience of illness and recovery. A brush with mortality changes the way you see the world. Historians who study personal accounts of sickness from all eras find this theme repeated again and again. The world becomes sharper, more vibrant. The simple, overlooked details of daily life take on a new significance. You, the potter from a small village on the Nile, are now part of this vast, timeless fellowship of survivors. The academic debate here becomes a philosophical one. What is the ultimate purpose of medicine? Is it simply to cure disease and prolong life? Or does it have a deeper, more transformative role? By guiding a patient through the ordeal of illness, does a physician also act as a kind of spiritual guide? Does the journey of healing also teach a person something profound about the nature of life and death, about suffering and resilience? Your own experience suggests that the physician's role is not just to heal the body, but to restore the patient's place in the world, armed with a new and harder -1 wisdom. You look down at your reflection in the dark, still water. The man looking back at you has the same face, the same potter's hands, but his eyes are different. They hold a new depth, a new understanding. They are the eyes of a man who has faced his own decay and has. For now, the river flows on, indifferent to your small, personal drama. It has witnessed millions of stories just like yours. It has carried countless people on journeys of pain and hope. It has seen the rise and fall of dynasties, the building of temples, the endless cycle of flood and harvest. Your story is just one more drop in its mighty, eternal current. You take a deep breath of the cool night air. The ache is still there, a tiny, quiet pulse. It will be there tomorrow. That so will the river, and so will the sun, and so are you. With a final, quiet nod to the grey, silent river, you turn and walk back towards your home, your family, and the life that you have fought so hard to reclaim. The image of the dull, flowing river begins to soften at the edges. The cool night air on your skin transforms into the gentle, familiar warmth of your own bed. The distant sound of the water becomes the soft, rhythmic hum of the fan you turned on hours ago, a sound that has been a quiet companion on your long journey. You are no longer on the banks of the Nile. You are safe. The pain in your jaw, the fear of the drill, the taste of the minty powder, they are all just echoes now. Characters in a story that has been told. They are fading, becoming less real with every slow, easy breath you take. The world of ancient Egypt, with its sun-drenched clays and its mysterious physicians, recedes like a dream upon waking. All that remains is a feeling of deep, quiet gratitude. A gratitude for the softness of your pillow, for the silence of your room, for a mouth that does not ache. The story has carried you far away, and now it has brought you gently home, leaving you on the peaceful shore of sea. There are no more spells to be cast, no more wounds to be healed. There is only this deep, comfortable stillness, this slow, effortless descent into the quiet land of your own dreams. The end of the article. Good night.